According to Mike Coppinger and his infamous sources, and they normally are pretty accurate, let's be fair, the Wilder Fury rematch has done approximately 800,000 to 850,000 pay-per-view buys, which is way, way, way less than the projected pre-fight figure of 2 million given by Bob Arum. According to Coppinger, this is the best performing pay-per-view for a world heavyweight title fight in America since Lewis Tyson in 2002. However, Lewis Tyson in 2002 did just under 2 million pay-per-view buys, which is over double what Wilder Fury 2 is said to have done. But the most critical point here is that, according to Boxing Scene, the break-even point for this show was 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, meaning they had to sell 1.2 million pay-per-views just to break even financially. And if these figures of 800 to 850,000 pay-per-views sold are accurate, then this show has actually lost money, even if you include the live gate. So let me show you the calculation here. So the pay-per-view was being sold for $80 a pop in the United States. 80 times 850,000 equals 68 million. So that's what the show would have generated from pay-per-view of 850,000 buys. Now the break-even point was 1.2 million buys. So 80 times 1.2 million gives you 96 million. So as you can see, there is a deficit between the break-even point and what the show actually generated of $28 million. Now, the gate is said to have done about 16.9. So they're still in the red. They've still made a loss of several million. Now, I don't know if the gate includes concessions and merchandise, etc., but can the concessions and merchandise equal up to more than $10 million or whatever the deficit would still be? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments. But at best, at the absolute very best, this show broke even. Now, what that means for the fighters is they don't earn a penny extra from their guarantees. Their guarantees were said to be between 25 to 28 million each. That's what their guarantees were reported to be. And they would get a percentage of the pay-per-view upside. Upside meaning profit. But according to these figures, the show didn't make a profit, which means the fighters won't earn a penny extra, at least not from the US market, on top of their guarantees. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that means that Anthony Joshua, for his rematch with Andy Ruiz, earned more than double Fury and Wilder's purses combined. Joshua was paid an enormous upfront flat fee by the Saudis, and he would have got a percentage of UK pay-per-view on top. And remember, that was 1.6 million buys. Now, Tyson Fury, of course, will get a percentage of the BT Sport pay-per-view revenue. Those figures probably won't get released, but given the fact the fight was at 5 a.m., if you look at Anthony Joshua's recent figures for his Andy Ruiz, the first Andy Ruiz fight in the United States, I think that did, 600,000 buys, and that's AJ. So how much can we expect Wilder Fury to have done in the UK? Who knows? Now, Tyson Fury's financial standing, his market value, his commercial value, whatever you want to call it, has definitely increased. And if he has a voluntary or even a mandatory in his next fight rather than the undisputed, that will be the litmus test to see where he's really at commercially compared to Anthony Joshua. He might be able to sell out Wembley in his next fight. Let's say he takes on Dillian Whyte, but that remains to be seen. As of right now, Anthony Joshua has certainly earned way more money for one fight than Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder have. But the gap is definitely closing. That's what I will say. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you surprised that this pay-per-view has reportedly only done 800 to 850,000 pay-per-view buys? Were you expecting more? Did you buy into what Bob Arum was saying, that it was going to do 2 million and all this kind of stuff? Are you surprised the show hasn't even broken even? That it's made a loss? Now, some people have said these figures can't be accurate because why would they project a loss? Because they apparently were projecting that it would do 1 million pay-per-view buys or whatever. The networks, this is what some people are claiming. Well, shows make a loss all the time. And the people putting the shows on know that they're going to make a loss. Sometimes you don't put a show on necessarily to make a profit there and then. You do it as an investment for the future. So, for example, Callum Smith versus John Ryder made a loss. Eddie Hearn said that he was going to make a loss before the show even happened because he was investing in Callum Smith. He wanted to retain Callum Smith as a client. He wanted to keep him happy, pay him a lot of money. So he had to, in Eddie Hearn's words, do his bollocks on the show. Many of the DAZN shows are running at a loss because DAZN are trying to break into a new market. They're paying these fighters crazy purses and they're not recouping that money from the shows. When Al Heyman first came on the scene with PBC, he was putting all these world championship fights on free-to-air television and paying the fighters big purses. He was making loss after loss after loss. He knew going in he was making a loss. Obviously, you hope for the best, but you project a loss a lot of the time. I mean, for Deontay Wilder's fight against Dominic Breazeale, they made a huge loss on Showtime, but it was an investment. That's what they thought it was at the time anyway. Perhaps they didn't know that Wilder was going to go over to Fox or whatever, but they made a big loss on that show, okay? So this right here, this Wilder Fury rematch, was really an investment by Fox and ESPN, as well as a gamble because you're hoping to try and at least break even, if not make a profit. But more than anything, it's an investment in the future. This was basically an investment in Tyson Fury, as far as I'm concerned. That's what they were doing. So it is what it is. And again, as it stands right now, Anthony Joshua, based on the money he's earned for fights in the past, is very much still the A-side. But then again, it depends where the fight happens. Would Anthony Joshua be able to do 800,000 pay-per-view buys in the States? Probably not. Not unless he was fighting Tyson Fury. He might not even do that if he was facing Wilder. So if the fight's in the States, you could say, okay, Fury's still the A-side. But in the UK, I seriously doubt that on BT Sport pay-per-view, this would have done anywhere close to the 1.6 million that AJ just did for the Ruiz rematch. I don't think it's done anywhere near that. So in the UK, AJ is still very much the A-side. It depends what the Saudis want to pay each fighter in terms of Saudi Arabia. So the gap is closing financially, but those are the figures for you. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's Ham and I'm out.